some music teachers. We're here again with Andrew. We're doing a back-to-back type of topic here where he's bringing a topic on to the video here, and we're gonna talk about his topic and really share about our thoughts. So again, if you don't know Andrew, feel free to share a little bit more about yourself just so everyone knows.
So I was actually one of Ben's first clients. I'm based here in South Africa. I'm an online music teacher, but with the change of everything, with the pandemic ending and everything, it's now more migrated to a nice mixture of online and in person, so a nice hybrid model. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
my
that's
life's
that's
pretty boring.
that's enough for the humble intro. I'm gonna give the flexed intro over here. Yeah, Andrew, you're too humble. You're too humble. But Andrew's like actually a really great music teacher. He not only a great music teacher, but like great studio owner as well. And the reason why he's so successful as one of my first clients is because of the work ethic he puts into his studio, and he really truly believes in what he does and this in the students that he teaches as well. I think I have like a short testimonial with him. Now we do these videos together because I like the way that he thinks and we think very alike as well. But Andrew came to me during the height of COVID, and he had like 20 students. And by the end of COVID, he essentially doubled his studio throughout all that uncertainty. And now, like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you feel like you have a lot of control over your studio in terms of if you want to grow, you know how, if anything happens, you know how to handle it because we've kind of faced it during the worst possible time anyway. Like nothing can get worse than than the pandemic right now, fingers crossed.
Touch wood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, cool. Well, talk to us about the topic that you wanted to talk about. It's probably already in the headline here. Talk to us about the topic you want to talk about and why that's so important.
So really, one of the number one things that I'm not a master at this. I'm still perfecting it as I go along. But one thing that I truly believe every music teacher needs to have some control over when it comes to acquiring new students is sales etiquette. You know, what to say, what not to say, um, how you can go about qualifying your student or parent, the parent that you're working with. Um, just really knowing how to engage with your customers on the phone in a way that makes them feel like you are the go-to guy, the guy that
Yeah.
they're looking for.
Yeah. What's kind of like a common example of like the wrong way that teachers go about it? Just so we're like just so we have like an idea of what we are trying to look out for.
So one of the things that I made a mistake, and so this is something I'm just basing it on me, is when I went into a phone call with somebody, I didn't have a very clear idea of what it was I was looking for in the person. I didn't know what my expectations for this particular student was. So I just kind of went in blindly and I just did my best to try and convince them to the best of my ability to
Convince them,
sign up.
please, please.
Yeah, like yeah, please, I'm on bended knee, please. or, or sometimes I would be on the phone, on WhatsApp messages, chatting for hours with somebody who was just wasting my time. They just weren't really interested.
uh
So this is it's I still look back and shake my head and think to myself, you know what, if I knew then what I know now, all the time I could have saved type of a thing.
Yeah, I think about when I was like first starting my piano studio too, is like it was a lot of people, and I think you're always gonna get this, but people just asking about the prices, right? When you get on the phone. It's like, okay, how much? Oh, hey, it's Ben. Just wanting to talk. Do you still want you still want to talk about music or piano lessons? Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. How much is it gonna be? And then now, like you get in a place where they're qualifying you as the teacher, But here's the shift that we could talk about too. Before we talk about any like tactics about like how to actually conduct the calls, like a structure to do that. We have to talk about like the mindset to go into it as well, because if you don't have the mindset, you won't know how to use the tools. So the biggest mindset here that Andrew kind of talked about too was that we have, not only are they qualifying us, seeing if we're a good fit for them, but we have to think about ourselves and who's a good fit for us as well. Like when I was talking about like we have to think about what we can control and what we can't control. What we can't control is who they choose as a teacher, right? But what we can control is who we choose for our students. So when you flip the mindset here is that when you talk to someone, like you want to be in a place where you're qualifying them as the student as well. Not in a place where like you're like, I only accept the best students, but more of like, hey, I want to make sure that before we even talk about prices, before we even talk about like actually being able to work, like actually signing up, I want to make sure that I am the best fit for you first, and that you are the best fit for the type of studio that I have. And that shift is really important.
Yeah. And that all comes down to knowing the type of person you want to work with as well too. If you don't know who your ideal student is, and teachers, let's be honest, we can teach everyone, but if you go in with anything goes, I can teach anyone mindset, you are
Yeah,
not really going to find your ideal student. You're just going to be attracting everybody. And as I found out the hard way, everybody is not who you want.
yeah. I
Everybody is not your ideal.
Yeah, in a very like our last topic we talked about was polarizing. In a very polarizing sense, I believe if you're a teacher that just accepts everyone and everything, or at least markets it that way, right? If you market yourself as I can help everyone at all ages, all skill levels, anyone can come, it comes across that you don't have boundaries for your business, right? It comes across where you don't have standards, right? And what, like at least the type of student that I am, I would not want a teacher that has no standards for themselves, right? So when you start having those boundaries, it's like even if it's just like, yeah, even if it's just like I'm looking for a student who's actually going to put in the work and practice, like that should be the bare minimum standard of like who you're actually looking for. So when people ask you about your prices or they're trying to qualify you, you want to make sure, hey, let me make sure that you're a good fit for my studio first, because if I don't if I sign you up and I figure out you're someone that's never going to practice anyway, someone who's not really actually that committed or doesn't see music lessons as important, then then you've kind of just wasted your time as well. Yeah. You have any thoughts about that, Andrew?
Definitely, you've got to go in. Once you know who your ideal customer is, then you can go in with specific questions to, I don't want to say attack, but approach the student or the parent with. You can ask them specific probing questions to really get what they're thinking out of them.
Yeah. What's an example of some
And
of those? Since I think we talked about like the belief, let's talk about like really like how to do it now.
so, one of the number one questions that I always ask every parent is, what do you hope to achieve with these lessons? So
Mm,
in other words, I ask the parent, like, what's the goal here? So I either say, like, what's the goal here, or what do you hope to achieve with these lessons? It pretty much rules out this, gets the same result, but it gets the parents talking. Um, and I just say to them, like,
yeah. What do they
well, they,
say?
usually they'll start talking about their child. They say, like, I just want my child to experience music. I never, some of them will even say, I never had an opportunity to do this when I was a parent, when I was
Hmm.
a child. And I want my students, or so my children, to be able to do that. I want them to experience music. I want to at least have them being able to say, I at least tried the piano when I was younger. I had that opportunity presented to me. Or sometimes it might be a more serious dynamic. You may say, I want my child to have a very good understanding of music. I want them to be able to find who they are as a musician, and I want them to be able to grow. I want somebody who can help them grow further. So it really gets the parent to talk about what they believe in,
Yeah.
or it can just find the answers. Like if they're giving like one syllable answers, like yes, no, you know, I think you know who I'm talking about, Ben, and I think most people who are listening to this right now have had that person at least once on a phone call or in a WhatsApp message.
Yeah.
But if you're getting like one short answers like that aren't really answering your questions, well, then that's sort of an indication to you that this is not your person. This is not the person you want.
Yeah, yeah. One quick thought about that is something that I've learned, something I was taught that I ignored and then had to learn through experience is that bad prospect equals bad student. Like
Mm.
they're not gonna treat you any differently just because they're paying you, right? So the way they treat you as the prospect before they pay you is also the way they're probably gonna treat you as a student as well. And that kind of goes the same way as you as a teacher and how you should be approaching or how you should be like, yeah, approaching these calls and the mindset you should have is that you need to be the type of teacher that you are in the studio as like outside the studio, or you got to be the same type of teacher with the same standards, with the same expectations, whether students paying you or not, right? Because for me, I will always hold not just my clients, but any teacher I'm talking to at a high standard because I want to treat you as if you are my client, right? And if there's some things in the conversation that you don't like, if you're talking to a parent and you're trying to qualify them, see if it's important, they're giving you one word answers, it's probably not that important for them. And do you want to risk all of that time and energy spent on someone who doesn't feel like it's important? Because we can't control that, right? We can't try to convince everyone that music is important, but for the people that do think it's important, we want to be able to lead them and be able to help those people.
No, definitely. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, look, it'll mean that you'll be happier. If you get the right person in your school, if you make that effort to just ask the right questions and you get the right clients, you're going to enjoy teaching them more
Yeah,
and you're going to have a better energy when it comes to teaching them. And they're going to feed off of that. And they're
100%.
going to be a better student because of that.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem that I'm trying to solve here with the group and with these training videos is that like the biggest problem is that like teachers build studios to the point where they're feeling burnt out and they hate teaching music when pretty much all of the teachers that come to me for coaching, they want exactly what you just talked about, like a life where they can be able to enjoy the students that they work with, come to work, like teach like with a lot of energy and a lot of time. So the people that really value their own time and energy over just getting one extra student, right?
Yeah. But of course, if we don't do this correctly, we could also end up chasing a very good student away as well too. So
Exactly, exactly.
it's important that we know what to say and when to say it. And like I mentioned at the onset, I've sometimes gotten this wrong as well too. But you really need to work on improving on this. It's an everyday thing that I'm working on. But trust me, I've learned firsthand. Sometimes you just say the wrong thing at the wrong time, and then that's it. The customer's lost interest, or you've put them off from actually wanting to consider you.
Yeah. Do you have like a set structure on what to ask them or how to conduct the call that you could share?
But one of the things that I always like to do is I just like to basically how you and I are talking now, Ben. I like to have it like a nice laid back conversation. Like
Yeah.
I'll always be sitting down at the table. Maybe I'll have a cup of coffee there by me while I'm talking to them. And then I'll just start off just by asking a sincere question. Like I'll just say to them, like, how's your week been going so far? Anything fun been happening? And they'll talk back. Well, I don't know. It all depends on the culture that you live in as well, too. But I know in South Africa, people appreciate a friendly conversation. So
Hmm.
often I'll say to them, how's your week been going? What, did you get up to anything with the family this weekend? Um, or I'll
Yeah,
say
just
like,
building like that rapport. That's important.
or, or be like, it's Wednesday, it's the middle of the week, hey, how are you coping? And then they'll laugh like, yeah, no, I can't wait for the weekend to come either, man. It's just ridiculous. Just have a light-hearted conversation. Sometimes I'll even throw in a little joke in there as well, too, and then that sort of breaks the ice. It lightens the mood a little bit. Of course, you got to be very aware of the person you're talking to, because if the person's like very serious and
Yeah.
you crack a joke, that might put them off. So it's just like trying your best to read the person and testing the waters to see what type of a person they are before you go full blown jokey jokey or serious serious, whatever route you want to take.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just have a normal conversation with them. I will just first off, after just like breaking the ice, introducing myself, then I'll move straight into it. And I'll be like, so you were mentioning to me in your message on Facebook or on WhatsApp or wherever it was that they messaged me by email. So you mentioned to me in your message that you are looking for a piano teacher for your student, for your child. Can you tell me like what type of instrument you're interested in? And they'll tell me, okay, I'm interested in the guitar. Okay, and like what are you hoping to achieve? That's when I bring the what are you
Mm,
hoping to achieve?
yeah.
And then they get talking. Then they start talking about their son or their daughter. I say, well, how would you feel if? And then I start presenting some solutions to them. Like, this is what I was thinking might actually work. And then like sometimes like I might forget to ask the parent what the child's name is. I'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm such an idiot. I've been enjoying our conversation so much. I completely forgot to ask, what is your child's name? Oh, it's little Susie. Okay, well, little Susie, she might like this approach with the guitar. What I normally do is I start teaching them a little riff on the guitar first and then a song. And, or if you would like, maybe I could take it in a more serious route with little Susie and I deliberately use the child's name when I'm talking to the parent because it sort of adds like a little personal touch
Yeah.
to your call.
Yeah, you already care.
Yeah, and then the parent feels like, wow, this person actually had the decency to ask what my child's name was. Like they actually view my child as a real person. It's not like just some my child that I'm just talking about to some random stranger. They're really wanting to get to know my child right now. They want to know what my child's hopes and dreams are with music, and they want to know how they can help this. And
Hmm.
I've often found a lot of times when I've used the child's name in that type of setting in the phone call, a lot of the times, 80 to 90% of the time, it's always wound up in a free trial lesson with my customers and my prospects.
Yeah, 100%. The I'd love to share like kind of like the golden question that if you were to only find out one answer to this question, this would be the only question you need to ask. Um, and it is asking the student, if you're signing up the student or if you're signing up the parent, like, is this important now and why? Right? Like, why is getting music lessons so for your child important now? Or, hey, why is being able to solve this problem that you're having with your, with your music career? Why is that so important to solve now? Because when you can get the importance and the urgency out from the prospect or whoever you're talking to, um, that'll gauge what kind of student that they are. Because a student that's going to work hard, it's going to be really important to them. A student who's like, think about think about how much effort a student would put in if this wasn't important for them, right? Like if they're like, oh, it's I've got everything else, so this is kind of like at the bottom of my list. Like how often do you think it's gonna practice? Right? How likely, like how would you feel about being able to help this person get results if they're not even able to put in the work, or if they don't even see this as important? So that's why that question is so important, because that'll gauge what kind of like what kind of student you're getting. And it's almost like the same thing for your own studio growth as well. Like if you don't view your studio growth, like growing your studio, getting the life that you want, if you don't view that as important, like I can't change that for you. But that's really up to you, because if it is important for you, then make that the priority, right? Yeah. Other than
Exactly.
that though, like I would love to hear anyone else's thoughts in the comments around this. Like if you found something that works, if you resonated with any of the problems that was like, oh yeah, I've been through that as well, then let me know, because I'd love to create some conversation about this. But yeah, anything else that you wanted to throw in there, Andrew, before we sign off?
Nothing that I haven't already covered already. But I would just like to end off once again stressing to everybody listening, if you haven't started working on your phone call etiquette now, it's never too late, but you need to get started. The more you improve on this, the better you will get at drawing the right person, and also you will enjoy teaching a lot more once you see the results of all the dedicated students that you're getting from your qualifying process that you use on the side.
I love it. I love it. Well, awesome. Well, appreciate everyone for watching. I'll see everyone soon.